Hello and welcome to the Doctors Are In show here on Psychic Talk Radio Network. This is the show where we discuss and take your questions on tarot, numerology, Vedic mantras and practices, as well as anything and everything psychic, spiritual, hypnosis, meditation, energy healing, psychic development, and so much more. We also take your calls for free, mini readings and guidance live on the air. So you want to dial in, call us at 714-816-4628 and press number 1 to get into the queue. The number again is 714-816-4628. And if you want to talk to us, you must press number 1 to get into that queue. Hi, I'm your host, Dr. Rose, and I love talking about all things psychic. I am an intuitive certified life coach, and I have a passion for so many things, mantras and meditations and mythology. In fact, I love to befriend, invoke, communicate with, and also work with divine beings from different traditions. But most importantly, I love to take my psychic knowledge and skills to help others, just like you, to experience a true transformation in your life. So welcome to the show. And joining me now, as always, which is now in its 16th year, a radio show personality for 10 years now. And he's also a certified tarot master, numerologist, life coach, and professional hypnotist. In fact, Dax can do just about anything except for neurosurgery. And here he is, Dr. Dax. Hey, Dr. Dax, how you doing? Great to be back on the air with you.
Hey, Rose. Yeah, like I told you last week, I'm working on the neurosurgery. Yeah, and Mary Brown is going to be my first patient. She doesn't know it yet. Just kidding. Oh, my gosh. Oh, wow. So, I don't know. We had a little bit, been having a little audio problems, folks, and so we apologize. Hopefully the recording will be fine for the rest of the show here. We are live, though, so give us a call, 714-816-4628. And who knows, maybe it's the Fae, because, that's what we're doing today, visiting with the Irish Fae and having on special guest Mary Brown. That's going to be a lot of fun. We just had St. Paddy's Day, actually. Of course, it was probably, even the pubs in Ireland were closed for St. Paddy's Day, so it was probably the worst St. Paddy's Day of history.
Oh, my goodness.
Right, Rose?
Especially in New York, because they get started really early, like 10 o'clock in the morning or earlier.
Well, yeah, and the parades and everything like that, Before we bring Mary on, I just wanted to mention that our shows on Friday and Saturday are sponsored by the Tarot Guild, and you can go over to thetarotguild.com, check us out. You can join the website for free. It's not just an ordinary website. It's actually like social media, like Facebook. We have a lot of fantastic features on there, and you can join for free, thetarotguild.com. But I did want to mention that I did a sale for St. Paddy's Day, and I decided to extend it for the rest of March. And the sale is if you enroll in my Tarot by the Numbers course, if you want to learn tarot and numerology, and you enroll in my course at thetarotguild.com/learn, you're going to get your membership to the Tarot Guild and your certification for free. And that's a $78 value. The membership includes the certification, and it's $78 a year or $9.97 a month. So you're getting a $78 value when you sign up for my course. And again, that's thetarotguild.com/learn. or if you're on our website, you can find it. It's all over the place there. Just enroll in the course. Let me know you enrolled, and I'll get you your membership as well. So that's a special we're running all month here, and, with the health crisis and everything and a lot of people being stuck at home, this is a great time to take a course, right, Rose?
Absolutely. Sorry, I had myself on mute. Absolutely. I actually bought a couple of courses from Steve G. Jones. So I was like, well, since I'm here, not that I don't already have about 10 of them. But this is an opportunity to learn,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so we are going to do the mantra of the day. Or, I'm sorry, the mantra of the week. I always get that confused. I'm sorry, because I'm thinking of the card of the day. We got the card of the day, the numerology of the day, and the mantra of the week. And, of course, we're going to be talking about the Irish Fae and getting into fairies and all of that with Mary Brown. Let's bring Mary on right now so she can join in the party. Mary is the Vice President for Certification for the Tarot Guild, and she's a professional tarot reader. She's also a crystal goddess, rock hound, crystal keeper, certified crystal Reiki master. But what a lot of people don't know is that she's actually also a certified fairyologist. So let's bring her on and find out, what that actually is and about the fairies. And then specifically about the Irish fairies, we thought that, there is some differences. And with it, just being St. Paddy's Day a few days ago, we thought it'd be fun to talk about this. Let's bring her on, Mary Brown. Hey, Mary, how you doing? Yay!
Yeah. Hi, Dax. Hi, Dr. Rose. Hi, Dr. Dax. How are you? This is fun.
We're having fun here on a Friday.
We're doing great.
Yep.
Awesome. Awesome.
I'm afraid the fairies are messing with the audio though for the show.
Yeah, I'll have to. It's funny. One of my teachers at my actual Irish. I take classes through the Irish Pagan School, and she said every time she teaches on the Irish fairies, or known as the she always has tech issues. She always does, every time. So it's just a thing, and usually, it's just kind of letting us know they're listening on what we're going to say about them. So I had a few words with them while that was going on, and told them, that this is about learning more about them, and we're coming from a place of, respect and curiosity, and please play nice. Stop it with the audio, please.
Well, it did sound like it's clearing up, so maybe they're heeding your words. It's very possible. It's very possible.
They've given us a chance.
Right. And Mary, you have Irish heritage.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I'm 50% Irish.
Oh, wow.
So
So not only is it perfect to have you on being the fairyologist, but also, it's perfect for the Irish Fae because, you're 50% Irish. That makes sense. I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, it's going to be fun. Can't wait to get into it. Before we get into the Irish Fae, however, I did want to do the card of the day, numerology of the day. We always do the mantra of the week, and you can join in and because I know you do a card of the day too as well, Mary. Plus, I wanted to just throw it out there that anybody that wants to call in. Usually people call in, obviously, with life questions. We pull some cards and stuff. But with all the craziness going on and the health crisis and everything like that, people might just want to call in and vent or, just talk about it or have us pull some cards, either on it in general or their particular situation in regards to the health crisis. We could do all of that or any of that. Also, I wanted to mention we are doing a Psychic Spin segment next Saturday on the Tarot Today show, which is on Saturdays. Mary and I will be back on, obviously, tomorrow. And we have a special guest, James Rickliffe. We're going to be talking about tarot games. And, we did not plan this, Mary, but it is so perfect because now people, in their homes or even over Zoom or Skype or Facebook call or something can play games with their tarot decks together while they're stuck at home, right?
Oh, yeah. And James has got a fun game using tarot that we can play with anybody that calls in to that show tomorrow, too.
Awesome. But on the 28th next week, we're going to be doing a Psychic Spin episode, obviously, on the coronavirus. And we had planned this a long, long time ago. And, when it was really early, I think it was, I want to say even January or February when this, was starting to happen. And, so much has changed, and it's just been a whirlwind. In fact, I wanted to mention, I don't know if you guys have noticed, we were on last week, right? Mary and Rose,
yeah.
We were on last Friday, and Mary and I were on last Saturday, and look how much changed in just that, short amount of time, that 1 week. In fact, I was going to mention to you guys, it feels like the last time we all were on air was like a month ago. It doesn't feel like a week ago.
It's like a different world.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
It's just crazy. Wow. It's just amazing, how things can change so quickly. And so if anybody wants to discuss any of this, give us a call, 714-816-4628. And, anything you want to talk about, if you want us to pull some cards or what have you, we're going to do a whole show on this, like we said, at the end of the month, and we'll be pulling cards on it. And that's the other thing. If you have questions that you want Mary and I to bring up on that show, on the Psychic Spin segment, questions that we should be asking, because, we don't know if we're going to ask the right questions. So send in your ideas. You can contact us through Facebook, or you can email us, mary@psychictalk.net, dax@psychictalk.net, and mail in your questions and ideas, and we'd be happy to maybe ask some of those questions live on air on the 28th. Yeah. But meanwhile, today you can call in as well and chat with us about this. I mean, it's just, I think we're all kind of like taken aback. How things can go downhill so quickly. It just shows the vulnerability of really the entire human race, if you think about it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think people are thinking about things now in ways that they never did. Kind of a lot of stuff that we kind of took for granted, right? Like toilet paper.
Mm-hmm.
Thought we always have it. It's funny, if we could. I think that's it though. We can't allow ourselves to lose our sense of humor, and that's the thing I'm kind of glad to see is so many funny, perspectives on it too,
Mm-hmm. That's right. And, of course, our mantra maven, Dr. Rose, has a mantra of the week to help out. And I wanted to mention, actually, even in the numerology, it's giving us clues. Because today's date, 3/20/2020, look at all those zeros and twos. Twos are about relationships. 20 reduces to 2, so the day energy is 2. But the entire day, 3 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, because you drop all the zeros, obviously, you get 9, which is the end of a cycle. And so, the old, if life hands you lemons, make lemonade. There's a lot that we could be, doing. Here we are, a lot of us, not everybody, but most of us are, staying at home. And, some people are quarantined. Some people are staying home, just heeding the advice, doing it on their own. And we have all this extra time now. So we can work on things, folks. We can take advantage of this. We can work on ourselves. We can better ourselves in many different ways. Like I mentioned earlier, you can enroll in my course and learn tarot and numerology. You can go on Udemy and learn any of a myriad of thousands of different things. Just about anything you want to learn, you can find on Udemy. Maybe you want to take up a new modality. You want to learn EFT or hypnosis or NLP or Reiki or
Dax, I have
so
a
many
suggestion.
different. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to add to it astral projection. Since many of us are inside and happen to be inside, learn astral projection. That's something that I've even heard of some prisoners who have learned how to do that. And remember, these people are physically incarcerated. They cannot leave, right? They can't go out for a walk in the park kind of thing. Sometimes they'll let them out depending upon, if they're in like high level, lockdown or whatnot. But that's what I recommend.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
There's some other things I wanted to mention real quick is besides that, taking the courses or working on yourself that way, there's a lot of other ways. Even though we're stuck at home, you can get on Skype or Zoom or some kind of a, Facebook call or phone with a practitioner or a therapist. They could do distance Reiki. They could do EFT, obviously, NLP, hypnosis can all be done over these mediums, while the practitioner's at their office or home and you're at your place, and you can, work on various things that you want to work on. If you, want to slow down or eliminate drinking or quit smoking or any, of these kind of social related habits, it's perfect because you don't have the triggers of being out and about and going to restaurants and bars and places where people are congregating and drinking and smoking and everything. This is like the perfect time for everybody to quit smoking and cut back on your drinking or eliminate drinking if you want. There's things like that we could be working on. We could be doing meditation and self-introspection, pull out your tarot deck, pull out your oracle deck, and start working on things as well. Plus, literally and figuratively cleaning out the closets, clear out all the baggage, go on YouTube. You can learn most of these things on YouTube, like EFT. You could learn tapping on YouTube. If you're feeling anxiety because of the health crisis, do some tapping. There's wonderful, people are just jumping on there, putting on free tapping sessions where you can tap along, tap away the anxiety from the health crisis, and also, tapping on other blockages and unwanted negative feelings that you want to clear out. You could be doing that, and also literally cleaning out the closets, clear out the garage, clear out the closets, stuff you haven't seen or touched for 6 months, a year, 2 years, can't get rid of that stuff, So there's a lot we could be doing. There's always the other side of the coin. When something looks like a crisis, looks like, there's all this negative things happening, there's always a silver lining. There's always the other side of the coin. There's always an opportunity in adversity, always. So just look for the silver lining. Look for how you could take advantage of this time. There you go. Okay, I'm going to get down off my soapbox now. But Dr. Rose, do you have a mantra that can help us out during this time of crisis?
Yes, I do. Everybody, I'm in California, and California is one of the states where we are really, they have strongly recommended that we stay at home. And also I have a mother who's, over the age of 80, so I have to be really careful, and we have to do the social distancing and everything along with it. So, when I give mantras out, remember it's a spiritual solution. Always follow the advice of the, authorities in your community, medical advice and whatnot. This is not a substitute for that at all, but you can actually use this as a way of helping to protect yourself in a way. Again, you want to make sure that you do what people recommend in your part of the, country, what the authorities are saying, medical advice and whatnot. So this is not to usurp that. But I understand, I too have this nervousness. I think it's a little bit of lack of sleep and being on caffeine too. But, I have this nervousness because we're, with every single day we're getting these updates of the kind of changes that are taking place. And it's challenging for all of us. Now, we're not locked down in the sense that if we step out of the door, they'll push us back into the house or anything like that. We can still go to parks. All of our regional parks are still open, so we can go out and get fresh air. We just have to stay 6 feet away from people, So, but, in your mind, you're thinking, oh, my gosh, I'm so stressed out. So I have a protection mantra that I'd like to recommend for everyone because, there's a lot of fear out there and a lot of anxiety. And what I like about the protection mantra is that it's I've given this up before, actually, probably not too long ago. The mantra is doom, okay? And it's the seed sound for the energy of protection, which is also considered a feminine energy. And if fear is a problem for you, this is definitely the mantra you want to chant, okay? The wonderful thing that I like about doom is that it's connected to a goddess in India called Durga, D-U-R-G-A. And if you Google images of her, you'll see her riding on a tiger or lion. She has 8 arms and weapons in each arm. I'm sorry, not each arm, each hand. She's also called Adi Padashakti. That's one of her names, Adi Padashakti. Some people understand her as Parvati, who is the great mother and whatnot. But anyway, Durga is a great mother. She is the warrior form of the great mother. And she, the mythology that centers around her is about combating evils and demonic forces that threaten peace and prosperity and dharma, which is the power of good over evil. And this is a kind of, this is an energy, a goddess that we definitely need in our lives right now, right? This virus is attacking many people all around the planet, and it's very scary, and there are different ways that we are having to be and interact that we're not used to. And so, this is a mantra that I recommend that you chant. So you can chant Doom or Om Doom Durgaye Namaha. Om Doom Durgaye Namaha. Now, another way I want you to think of Durga, because she is considered to be, she's a warrior, true, but she's also a great mother. So meaning that if you've ever had a mother or a nurturing person in your life, like you think about when you were a kid and maybe you came down with the flu or you got sick or you bumped your knee and the mother would come and hug you and there, it's okay. Here, I'm going to take care of you. Here's some little medicine. Or when I was a kid, I don't know, Mary and Dax, when we were young, we didn't have the medication for flus and stuff, to lower the fever. Our parents used to dump us in a tub of ice. When our fever was too high. So that was huge, we're like, no. And they were like, no, get into the tub, It was very shocking. Nowadays they have medication and stuff for that, so I don't know if they do too much of that these days. But you can see how shocking that is, and, children crying and, they're sick. My mother used to pray over me, even though I think she knew I would get through it, but I would be very sick. Your stomach is hurting or whatever's going on. You're down in the bed. And, my mother used to pray over me. That's what Jyotika is like. She will protect you. She will do all she can to help you. At the same time, she's loving you, and she's feeling compassion for your situation. So my recommendation is to chant Doom or Om Doom Durgaye Namaha, and just allow the Great Mother to come and fall upon you and wrap her arms around you and pat you, your back and hug you and say, it's going to be okay. We're going to make it through all of this. Okay? So that's my mantra of the week. How was that, Dax and Mary?
Wonderful.
Great.
Absolutely wonderful. And, Durga is one of the goddesses that, from that pantheon that I've felt a connection with, because I've got lion and tiger helpers, and that's what first attracted me to her. So I'm just sitting here like, wow, the synchronicity that's going on here is amazing. But I love that. I'm going to start chanting that, like, now, right now.
Yeah. And she's really powerful. There's one, I'll share this one really quick story, and this comes from I think it's the Healing Mantras book or Sanskrit Mantras by Thomas Ashley Farrand. And he said he was outdoors. They were doing something together spiritual with a group of people, and some guy came up. He was kind of disheveled, and he was, kind of going after Thomas, right? Like, blah, 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 and then his wife, Margalo, she turned around. She's very much she loves Durga, and she chants Durga's mantra and said, "Excuse me, who do you think you are?" And the guy backed off. So she had that kind of, that goddess, that Durga energy, like, oh, no, you are not going to do this, not now. So just know that she carries that kind of energy. Even if you're sick or afraid of getting sick or whatever that is, she'll protect you for sure.
Awesome. And then we also have the card of the day. I know, Mary, you do cards of the day. You want to tell folks about what your daily practices you do?
Yes. Every day on our Psychic Talk Radio Facebook group, I post a card of the day in there. And the card of the day that I posted comes from the Fairy Guidance Oracle by Paulina Cassidy, and the card is called Change. And the message is to expand your flexibility for change, and you'll enjoy the vitality of life ahead. And so I thought, wow, when that came up, that kind of really fits. Circumstances have changed. We're all experiencing change, and, we're going to make it, but we got to kind of, figure out how to make those changes and to be flexible in not doing things differently than maybe we're used to. So that's what I got for the card of the day.
There you go. I got the moon card. And the moon card in tarot is attached to psychic, intuitive awakening, dreams. Right away I thought of the astro travel that you mentioned, Dr. Rose. That would be something great to, take a course on.
Yeah.
Right nowadays, and listening to our dreams and doing dream work and writing things down. Also, there's an aspect of the moon card about things being hidden and not seen clearly, because in the moonlight, it's not like seeing something in direct sunlight. It casts shadows, and there's darkness, and I think there's a lot. I think it's hinting towards there's a lot we don't know yet about the health crisis, about the coronavirus, and it's just hinting at that as well. But tarot's always multi-layered, and there's like we were saying earlier, there's a lot of opportunity in the adversity if we just look for those possibilities there. All righty. So there you go. We're already past the bottom of the hour. And I want to give out the phone number one more time if anybody wants to call in and chat with us, 714-816-4628. So now we have all that out of the way. Let's chat about the Irish Fae. Well, fairies in general, and then narrowing to the Irish ones. And Mary, you need to repeat the name for our Irish Fae, and maybe talk a little bit about becoming a fairyologist and what all that means.
Yes. It's interesting, So when we talk about fairies more generally, because there's fairy traditions, stories, they have lore about fairies all over the world. They may know them by different names. They may have ones that are, specific to where they live, to their regions. We have to understand that, fairy is a very general term, and and it's understood in different ways. And when we talk about Ireland, they don't call them fairies. They're known as the Fae. The Fae. You're going to hear a Fae, Danish. These are different ways coming from like the old Gaelic and then modern Irish, ways of pronouncing it. But they're really about, it's different. I would say that out of all the different traditions all over the world, the Irish have a very specific tradition, and the she is probably the easiest way to think of it. Just is pronouncing it that way, but the word is spelled Sidhe. So you might see that a lot. In fact, Dax, I'm sure you've seen it because there's a tarot deck that's been out for a really long time, the Tarot of the She, and so that's like a fairy tarot deck. But the way people approach them and stuff is really Ireland's unique, than maybe the New Age approach. And so my certification as a fairyologist, really, that comes from it's so funny. I'm going to say this, and I don't know how people will take it exactly, but back when Doreen Virtue was like cool, with like with maybe more people in the metaphysical crowd than she is now. One of the last courses she taught to us, to that particular demographic, was a fairyologist course, and really, even she taught it in a very general way, and she talked about all the different types of fairies. The way it's understood is, fairies of the land, fairies of the sea, fairies of the sky. So, and in those different delineations of fairies, you also have tribes of fairies, certain fairy, families, fairy royalty. It's like fairies is a real general term, but it can mean a lot of different things to different people, and it kind of depends on where you live, and are you talking about the land or the sea or the sky. And so it's like a crazily complicated topic at times, but I think that it's at the same time a little bit easy to understand. I hope. And
Awesome.
And so what else do you want to know about them? Like, we can talk about
there's so many different things.
Yeah.
What about you, Rose? Did you have any questions first?
Yeah, I do. Mike, a lot of times when people talk about the Fae, they refer to them as elementals, and I was just wondering about that. Are they truly elementals? Some people say that they were actually more, I guess, beings, divine beings, but somehow through the Victorian era they were diminutized, made smaller. Do you have any information about that?
Yeah. And so, and also if they're corporeal or non-corporeal, like are they physical creatures, or are they like more energetic beings in a sense, it is really interesting, and with the Irish Fae in particular, it's so intertwined with the history of Ireland, where you have the first, like, what they call them, the ancient gods of Ireland, the Tuatha De Danann. And, were they people or were they gods? And when you go back through the lore and what written accounts that there are, historical accounts, it's always hard to say what's mythology and what isn't. It's not quite like, and even when you study your Irish ancestry, you can go back far enough and reach a point where you're like, so were my ancestors real? Like you start to wonder. It gets a little bit twisted up, but the idea of them being small, right? There is some interesting things in the lore in Ireland. There's one particular account where you have somebody who, there's a lot of stories of them intermingling with humans, and you have one account where you have a human man, and he's in love with a we could say like a fairy princess, and he even, and it's written down, he's starting to question, like, how's this going to work physically? Like, how do you have sex when she's so small and I'm so big? I mean, that's literally there. And so it starts to make you think, like, okay, now we're talking about this has to be like more of a corporeal thing. Like, they're talking about physical beings, because you couldn't necessarily, have a romantic moment with someone who wasn't really there, right? So it gets there's a lot of different ideas about it, but there's not one answer. And because we don't know for sure, and I would say this is that, sometimes in our modern minds we look back, we read the mythology of different cultures and stuff, and we kind of we try to, we see it through our modern eyes, we see it through our modern understanding, I think we can't forget that for our ancestors, their experiences and their beliefs were very real. And it gets really twisted up in Ireland, and I'm sure in other places too, but specifically in Ireland, because a lot of the accounts that we have of the She in Ireland were written down like in, I think, the 12th century by Christian monks. Now, so they tend to be demonized, right? Because, they're coming from that perspective. And also because of the experiences that people were having sounded like a lot of times experiences you wouldn't want to have. And so I think the Christian monks, that was their understanding of it. But at the same time, and so you see that with that writing. And then you have another tradition of writing that really romanticizes them, like Lady Wilde, Oscar Wilde's mother, wrote about the She there as well. But I think what we have to understand is that they were still gathering stories from the people, and these were the stories they were telling them. And so, but when they write them down, they're writing them down from their point of view. And so you got to kind of, pick out the in-between stuff. And that's the thing about fairies. When I talk about the land, the sea, and the sky, there's a lot of places in Ireland, mounds and fairy forts and stuff, natural features and caves and the beach and mountains. So you got to think of it like, where do we meet them? Where do we cross over into what they call the other world or their realm, And that's where we have these between places, like a mountain that rises up into the sky where the land meets the sky, the beach where the land meets the sea, between. We talk about times in which you're more likely to be able to connect with fairies as being like twilight and dawn, when the time is shifting from day to night. And so it's kind of like almost everything that I've learned about them, you really find that, like, you don't get it's not a black and white answer. It's not a yes or no answer on most things. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I found the same thing. Like, one of the things that I'd been really fascinated with is the interaction between humans and gods. And one of the things, because you hear all these stories, now some of this from the movies, of course, like there was a period of time, I think, what is it, the Hobbit series talks about this, where there was a period of time where these beings were more present or maybe corporeal, but then as time went on, I guess it became, I don't know, the reign of man, or in the Eastern traditions, human beings became more closed off to the divine. And so it was just basically us. But I've always been interested in stories like that, especially where they talk about, like you said, the love between a human being and a divine being, and how does that work out. I have some theories about that, also some experiences. So we'll have to do that for another show.
The R-rated version of the doctors are
right.
in, right?
But I've always, I was fascinated because you had so many stories across mythologies all over the world about this. I was like, well, there's got to be something going on. I don't think people are just making it up, So, yeah.
Well, exactly. And, what my teacher, Laura O'Brien, in Ireland at the Irish Fae School, she teaches us to create like a, kind of like we create our own island. We use a kind of a guided journeying, like a shamanic journeying technique, in order to connect with the Fae and other deities in safe space, and she has posited that perhaps we read this, but we really don't know if they weren't maybe astral project journeying as well. Like it doesn't make the experiences any less real, but
right,
were they connecting in a different like state of like an altered state like that, so it's hard to kind of figure out sometimes.
Yeah, it is, because also, like you said, the understanding back in those times was very different. Like you said, the monks wrote it down from their perspective, and of course that was outside of Christianity, and anything outside of Christianity was considered to be demonic. But their mindset was different. It was completely different, than the way that we think now. We come from the Western culture where there's this whole separation that's experienced, So it's fascinating.
Yeah, it is. And one of my friends the other night, we were kind of talking about kind of a similar thing, and and his theory was that we've evolved our senses in some way where maybe we don't perceive them. It's maybe not like they went away, but that maybe,
right.
Like dolphins can hear sonar and we can't. There's some species that can see infrared and we can't. And the things that they see are still there. We just don't see them.
Or we see it in a different way, because people talk about the third eye and being able to see about the divine beings, especially in India, being beings of light, and that they exist in a different visual spectrum. Our physical eyes can't see it, but those of us in the psychic world and psychic development, through meditation and other modes and whatnot, it's almost like I would say, I wouldn't call it a daydream necessarily, but it's almost seeing things in a way that's very different. They're not physical, but you might get an image of them or something like that, that they exist in a different dimension.
Yeah.
I want to say one thing really, really quickly. There's this interesting film. The beginning of it was interesting, called Beyond the Spectrum. And they talked about how cameras in space, like in NASA shuttles or whatnot, they can pick up certain things that we can't see with our human eyes. And they were seeing these things, like this light, different lights that were circulating around Earth, and they were moving and changing. It wasn't just like debris passing by, but it was moving and changing directions in ways that, it had to be something more than just debris, in space. And so there are things that we just can't see with our physical eyes, and we're not going to be able to see them with our physical eyes, So, yeah.
And there's one thing I know, like, my, shamanic practice, we work on that. We work on expanding our senses. We do a lot of eye exercises and hearing exercises, trying to hear everything that's going around us, and then trying to extend our hearing range to hear, like, what's going on the street near us, and then see just how far, we can stretch that. And there are things you can do to, kind of try to expand the senses, and they're kind of fun, fun exercises. So something people could be doing now since they're stuck at home,
Right.
And
I'm so glad you do I'm so glad you do the shamanic exercises, because that's what I do. And I have found that the more I just started doing, I don't know where I got this ability from. Like, I don't know if I just came into the earth plane, this something like I did or whatever it was, but it's really fascinating, because the more I've engaged in it, the more real it becomes. The more it's difficult to explain, but it's a wonderful, wonderful experience. When you do shamanic practices like that, like when you have animal totems and you talk with them and you ask them questions, these divine beings of things about your life or improvement of your life. It's really powerful, and I think it's a lot more powerful than people understand or know. It's not just dreaming like you're just fantasizing, because fantasizing is more of you have control over the whole scene. But this is more like it's mostly akin to the way that I see it. It's like you can set the stage, but then it becomes alive. And this is all, kind of like in a meditative state. But you set the stage and it becomes alive. You might focus on an object or a symbol. You may see like greenery or something, but it will come alive on its own. It's not something that you say, okay, and then this happened and that happened. That's more fantasy. Right.
Yeah, it's not quite the same as a guided journey where they're telling you, what to visualize either, and that would be the one thing that I would recommend to anyone interested in connecting with fairies, in their local area, or, connecting with the Irish Fae, is learning like shamanic journeying practices could be really helpful in creating like a safe space to do that. You can kind of create like your own island or your own, grove of trees. But, one couple things to keep in mind is that, they are very connected to nature. As far as being elementals, I think the jury's still a little bit out on that. I think that they are like I think of them more as a distinct species. And so having respect for them like you would have respect for yourself and and your own species. So just some little tips there when you approach them.
Well, and I kind of wanted to go back the other direction, talking, you've been talking a lot about, the possibility of, I don't know what to describe it, but, them being more like light beings or energy or consciousness or other dimensional or what have you. But let's bring it back, to the opposite direction, to the possibility of the corporeal existence, maybe way farther back in time, perhaps, maybe they went from corporeal to energetic, who knows? But specifically with the Irish, there's the tradition of people being, thinking of themselves as descendant from the Irish Fae. Yeah. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and so what happened, and that is really, you mentioned that I'm Irish, and what it was is like I never knew my biological father growing up, and then finally, with DNA test kits and stuff, I dug into my ancestry. I guess it's been a couple of years, and discovered I was half Irish, and I was like, nobody told me. I could have been drinking green beer, or what's going on, And so I really, dug into that and, connected with, I found like 407 relatives, including a brother and sister I didn't know I had. And
oh wow.
Yeah, it's kind of wild, and so I started, they sent me a lot about my Irish heritage, and, and it's like, look, this is your people, and and look, there's a song about them and stuff. And I'm like, really? And I'm going back through all of this stuff, and I started getting into it, and I'm like, wow, the further back you go, you go back, past the, grandparents, the great-grandparents, three-fourths, you keep going, and you learn about the clans that you're in, and the kind of like the tribal, regions that your heritage comes from, and once you start studying that, you get further back, and you get to the point. I got to the point where I had an ancestor he had a name, and then next to his first name was servant of Dagda. And Dagda is one of the Tuatha Dé Danann. It's like the all-father of the Tuatha Dé Danann. And
wow.
and then I found another ancestor, who was called, had their name listed and said of the calf goddess, and I was like, okay, it's getting interesting here. It's getting really, really interesting. And then what you find out is like, so there's this, the Milesians that came over, like the first peoples of Ireland, on the island, and on the island, and we're dealing with what they call the Fomorians, which were, I guess, like this sort of race of giants, kind of, and then the Tuatha Dé Danann, the ancient gods then show up. And so these are all like the first groups of people that inhabited Ireland, and the Milesians, intermixed with the Tuatha Dé Danann. Like, it wasn't a big deal, like what we were talking about earlier, because it wasn't so much of a big deal to, get married to a god, or, have sex with a god back then. That was seemed to be going on a lot in Ireland, and that's how a lot of us end up with these ancestors that don't seem to be exactly what we think of like regular people as. So it's fascinating. So, and even, Ireland.com, like one of the main sites, if you're, interested in Ireland, going there, want to read about the different regions and stuff, they do stories every once in a while. It's like how to find out if you have fairy heritage, and there's a lot of people that, have traced back their ancestors to the Tuatha Dé Danann, and they think like, whoa, and then what happens though is like, in Ireland, there is a real respect for it. Like people don't mess with the mounds and the forts and stuff, and there's so many stories, and there's even like, local laws, like, we're going to make our road around this feature in the land. We're not going to go through it, because every time somebody messes with one of these, things go bad, the equipment breaks, get hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's, it's a different way of being, maybe than, in the United States. I think that we have a lot of, fairy places in the land, but I don't think that we alter our very important human infrastructure plans around them the way they do there.
So basically, the answer to our question is yes. Mary Brown is descendant from the Irish Fae, and
absolutely.
Yeah. And
I always suspected as much.
You did suspect it. I'll tell you, before discovering my heritage, I kind of suspected it too, because I was already a fairyologist, and I had a moment where I really found myself in a moment of need to follow upon the fairies, where I really thought, like, that's who can help. That is the only people, the only beings that I could think of that could help me. And I was dealing with, I'm active in, animal rescue, especially with dogs, and was dealing with a hoarding situation, and found myself with, 15 puppies who were miserable, waiting on, transports and stuff to take them where they needed to go. And I was really struggling with it, because it was just horrifying to me. It's kind of a shocking situation that just fell in my lap, and I'm sitting there out there with them outside, and they're miserable, and they're just crying and crying. And you know how even when people, when you have a baby that's crying, it can stress you out a little bit. You're like, please, what can I do for you? Please stop crying. It's gonna be okay. And I was that way with these puppies. And I'm outside by this wonderful oak tree that we have out there. It's actually a pecan tree now that I think about it. And I just said, please help me, please, and I called upon the fairies, our local fairies, and how it happened and how this kind of happens sometimes. For me, this experience was all of a sudden I hear a song in my head. And it's like a sing-songy little, like puppy, 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 like it was just like a simple song. And I kept hearing it in my head, and so I started singing it. And all these puppies were miserable and, crying, all took a nap until help arrived. And I thought, corporeal, not corporeal, myth, not myth. The effect is real. It works,
Yeah.
The effect is
That's
real.
awesome. That's awesome. Well, here we are coming up on the end of the show already. Before we go, I want to mention some of the wonderful upcoming shows, including ours tomorrow, Mary. We're going to be on with Tarot Today Radio and special guest James Rickliff. I think James, some of his books like Tarot Tells the Tale, which is like, wow, it's a seminal work in tarot, and I think that's like one of the first things I ever read, and it really helped me get started with reading in a practical sense, doing 3-card readings. James is a certified tarot master, deck creator. He's created a couple of decks, as well as tarot author and speaker and educator. But we're going to have fun. We're going to talk about tarot games tomorrow. So can't wait for that. And you can always call into the show as well. And then on Sunday, March 22nd, it's Magic Universe with Sharona Rapsik. And she's doing an episode on raising your vibrations with essential oils. That's fascinating to me because Rose and Mary, I don't know if you know, but Sharona plans out her shows like many months in advance. Wow. And so, she had no idea that doing that episode Sunday, March 22nd, would be such perfect timing. We all need our vibrations raised up during this health crisis and all the stuff that's going on. It's just like perfect timing with this stuff. Sometimes it's just amazing. And then let's see, on Monday, March 23rd, Reclaiming Your Power. It's the Compassionate Light Healing and Guidance Show with Catherine Hahn. She's doing a series of shows on reclaiming your power all month long, which, again, yet another thing that we all need in this time of crisis. We need to be able to reclaim our own power. And then, of course, we'll be back next Friday, Dr. Rose, with open lines and tarot mini readings all show long. Looking forward to that. Yeah. And then Saturday, March 28th, we're getting to the end of the month here, and we'll be having that Psychic Spin episode, which, Mary and I decided we should do that and planned it, way before things got to where they are now, like a month and a half, 2 months ago. And we could never have foreseen, Mary, that it would go the way it's gone. So we have even more to pull cards on the Psychic Spin on the coronavirus. Yeah, Saturday, March 28th. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I just feel like we plan, if you know Dax, he's really, good at planning ahead. And, I think, we both, thought of that, like, people are talking about this virus thing, that'd be a great thing to pull some cards on. And now it's like, a different world. A different world. So
Wow.
I'm glad we're doing it. I really am.
Yeah. Well, everybody, stay safe and healthy out there. I want to thank you for being on, Mary, and chatting a little bit about the Irish Fae with us. And
thanks so much for having me on. I really love talking to you and Dr. Rose about this. This is so much fun for me.
Michelle, this was wonderful.
We
and
need
the
to have
audio
more
cleared
guests
up.
on. It's fun.
The audio cleared up. The Fae were cool with it.
Awesome. Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks to all of our listeners. And thank you, Mary. Thank you, Dr. Rose, for being here.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Mary, so much for the wonderful presentation. And thank you, Dr. Dax, as always, for co-hosting.
I can't wait to be back on air with you next Friday, Dr. Rose. And I'll talk to you, Mary, tomorrow.
Yes, and James.
And James. It's going to be fun. All righty. Bye, everybody. And good night, Mary. Good night, Dr. Rose. Good night, John Boy.
Bye.
Good night.